Alright, kiddo. Watch that corner. Make sure there's no clickers around us.
Yeah, don't call me kiddo, okay? I'm 27 years old. You don't need to say that. Can you hurry up?
I'm gonna search this shelf for supplies.
I think they're coming. What are you doing? What are you doing? Are you dancing? What the fuck? Are we leaving or what?
Alright. Found some weapon parts. Could probably build a scope or something.
There's not a whole lot left to talk about when it comes to this game, but I suppose I can start with my earliest memory of its existence, along with some good old nostalgic campfire stories to support the emotional weight behind today's review. I loved The Last of Us. Always have, always will. I'm no stranger to the series, as it's been referenced on this channel quite a few times. Recently I've gotten access to the remake of the first game that was released on Steam, so I'll be focusing mostly on the gameplay aspects. But there's debatably too much to talk about whenever this game is merely mentioned in hushed whispers. Due to the sequel's infamous legacy, I will not be commenting on the series as a whole today, but rather taking you all back in time to experience this game on its own. I can't help but invite you along on this journey to discuss why The Last of Us is a fantastic game that can never be forgotten. When I was 14, I begged my father to buy me a copy of the newest story-driven survival game made by the same creators as the Uncharted series on PlayStation, until he eventually caved and bought me a copy from eBay. I'll never forget the day I opened that mailbox, tore open the orange envelope, and stared longingly at that PS3 cover. The image of Joel and Ellie walking through the decayed city streets was my very first peek into the horrors that awaited. I played the hell out of that game, and it was beyond satisfying. The graphics for the time were excellent, truly pushing the PlayStation 3's limits without overworking the console itself. The gunplay, unlike Uncharted, was based solely on precise skill and timing. You can't just charge up to enemies and kill them one by one with your bare hands. You have to seek cover and play it safe, navigating most areas using stealth instead of brute force. It's not easy to make 3 consecutively great games in one series, let alone 2, but Naughty Dog found a way, as The Last of Us continues to be a franchise today, almost mocking itself in and out of existence constantly. If you ask me, I say fuck all that shit. I love the first game, plain and simple. There's no need to elaborate on anything else as of right now, so let's just shut up and move on. People, including fans, often make jokes regarding the multiple versions of this game that exist. There was the original, then the remaster, then Part 2 came out, and then they had the fucking remake, which they call Part 1. Jesus, you think that's enough? I would think it seems excessive, but that would be kind of hypocritical. Resident Evil 4 has had 100,000 fucking releases on almost every electronic device, and I couldn't get sick of that game if I tried. It's rare, but this time I do feel like The Last of Us deserved a more modernized cinematic remake. And even though it's the main conversational point here, as is with all of my cursed Steam reviews, I would like to start this review from a fanboy's perspective and get some early nitpicks out of the way. I noticed right off the bat that many details were changed from the previous versions of the game. Some of you might be thinking, no shit dummy, some things should be changed. But what I simply mean is, there are a couple of various minute changes in the story and gameplay that I disagree with entirely, that I'll unravel as I go. For starters, when Joel and Tess find out that Ellie's infected, Tess directly aims her pistol at Ellie's face. In the original, Tess only suggestively held the handgun to intimidate Ellie, but probably felt in her gut that there had to be an explanation. She seemed to care a bit more about a child in the original, showing restraint. But in the remake, she's fucking aiming the thing right at Ellie. Again, make fun of me because this isn't that big of a deal, but the reason I'm bothered by this in particular is because it was a subtle character nuance that Tess had from before that they just removed. One could argue that Tess showed restraint because she still had some humanity left in her, despite all she and Joel went through, and it wasn't until she got bitten that she realized the severity of the situation and genuinely started to believe Ellie. But why change this one tiny detail? It feels kind of out of character. My second nitpick, the remake as a whole feels so much slower than it did before. I understand the focus for this version was to improve graphics, character designs, environment details, and what have you, but how come you can't do any cool tricks like before? Sprinting doesn't feel as intense or drastic, and you can't even do the Joel shuffle when you're picking up items in the environment. What the fuck? You got rid of the Joel shuffle? Why? Grabbing items, notes, and firefly pendants is really tedious because Joel and Ellie have to physically pick everything up one at a time. Whenever it's a document, they stop dead in their tracks and the camera zooms in on the note you just collected. Don't get me wrong, I really like when games do this, but what was wrong with the original way of gathering items and info? Back then, Joel just fucking swiped his hand and you could immediately open the letter to read it. It shouldn't take 10,000 seconds to read a note that I'm trying to collect and put away for later. It's not like I'm gonna reopen any of the documents that I've read. Basically, it just makes the game go by a little slower in my opinion, though I can respect the narrative decision to go this route. It is visually more appealing. After all, you don't want to pay almost $70 for the third fucking version of a game in a row, so it better look decent. And thank God it does. I know that when it first released on console, the game was reportedly full of bugs, but it has since then received an onslaught of updates. However, I did still find myself encountering a few bugs. Some cutscenes will glitch characters in and out randomly, there's some stuttering you'll witness at certain points, and the textures sometimes take forever to load. Look at this scene where Ellie talks to Joel about the skinny woman on the billboard. It looks fucking horrendous. I have my settings on high, so what the fuck is this? Other game-breaking moments include trying to progress at certain story moments only to have to restart the checkpoint because Joel got frozen in place. Ellie got stuck a few times as well, but since she's an AI that follows Joel even after triggering a cutscene, that wasn't too much of a bother. My main arguments with the remake can be summed up in a few words. The Last of Us, in my opinion, didn't need this cinematic overhaul. The game feels a little slower than before, but not in the most grandiose way. Alrighty, enough of that whiny shit. It's time to praise this masterpiece of manure and dive into its cordyceps. This intense story is so captivating that it should be noted in history as having one of the most powerful introductions in gaming ever. Taking control of Sarah, it was ethereal to relive the tragedy that her and her father endured on the first day of the infection. I can't imagine how hard it would be to watch your father shoot the neighbor, only to then witness a violent attack during a traffic jam. Sarah's story is short and blunt, which is one of the main themes of the game. It tells the player right off rip, it's not afraid to fuck around. This is an emotional powerhouse. It doesn't matter if it's hell or high water, you'll never be ready for what The Last of Us has to offer. Neil Druckmann himself has stated the theme of the first game was the unconditional love that a father feels for his child. Fans understand and relate to Joel's loss early on, which makes him a tragic but well-developed character. The loss of his daughter, Sarah, will forever change him into a miserable, bitter smuggler who awakens 20 years after the incident. The first time I played this game, I couldn't believe how much time had gone by. Joel must be in his fucking 40s at this point. The big reveal of the totalitarian regime that has taken over the broken world is shocking. Seeing the large amounts of military influence, deprivation of humanity, and infection rates at an all-time high, I like the idea that society itself has become a mockery of what it once was. Freedom of speech, press, and every other amendment have died alongside the various corporations that stood tall at one point. These ginormous concrete walls seen in the introduction aren't meant to protect anybody. In my opinion, I'm glad Sarah didn't have to grow up and bear witness to the horrors that you inevitably face throughout your journey across the US. Joel is attacked consistently by bandits known as hunters, all while guiding a 14-year-old with a sailor's mouth. There's blood, there's fire, there's chaos in just about all directions, yet somehow the two of them persevere, creating a symbol of hope in this rotting wasteland. Ellie has become an iconic video game character, often praised for her outstanding voice actress, Ashley Johnson, and for her charming, hilarious personality. Ellie, despite all the terror she goes through, still tells a joke every now and then to try and ease the tension. However, the world is unforgiving, and she quickly learns that she can't hesitate even for a minute. She's badass, she's well written, and I think we can all aspire to be like her. I believe Ellie is the leader to a new generation of survivors in this universe. During combat, Ellie will assist Joel with simple distractions. Before she's able to use a gun, she will usually throw a brick or bottle at your enemies to stun them, creating an instant window for you to move in and kill them quickly. Best of all, your AI partners can't be seen by the enemies. The brutality of this game is still there, with all the gibs and gore to go along. Blasting away at either the infected or an attacking human will surely leave them in a worse state than before. I'm happy that ever since this game first released, they've never shied away from the grotesqueness of this nightmare. Guts are exposed, heads get ripped off, necks get fucking snapped. It's The Last of Us. What do you expect? A holly jolly hand slapping simulator where Joel, Ellie, and Abby play patty cake? It's one of the gorier games I've discovered in my lifetime, and I really appreciate that they didn't censor any of it.
Hey, coward!
Shit!
Let go of me, you chicken shit! Joel!
Show you.
Motherfucker! What's wrong with these guys?
Joel can collect upgrade manuals throughout the world, increasing his skills in various fields. You might find one that lets you restore more health from medkits or increase the range of your Molotov explosions. In my opinion, these are essential and you should try your best to keep an eye out for them. Discovering unique conversations with some of the characters leads to interesting and sometimes sad results. There are plenty of optional dialogue trees that you can discover as you and Ellie fight your way across a broken America. One major improvement that I need to talk about is the weapon customization. Some might say this is a bit overdone, but I digress. When you'd like to upgrade your gear and have enough parts to do so, you can watch a satisfying animation where Joel will build or fidget with his equipment while it's being improved. I really liked this change as a whole, and couldn't help but immerse myself with the details that they put into this variation. Speaking of, I gotta throw some more love to the team responsible for the subtle fading text of the UI. Whoever came up with that needs a raise, because it wasn't necessary, but definitely appreciated. Just adds a neat aesthetic that you don't see too often. Collecting parts that are scattered across the world will allow you to further upgrade your weaponry, like magazine size or firing rate, just to name a couple. Every single weapon has its use for the right situation, and you'll have plenty of ways to experiment on your foes. One must be cautious, however, as utilizing the tools in your inventory for things outside of combat can be tricky. Sometimes, Joel can find these locked rooms that need to be broken into using a shiv. It's up to the player to decide whether or not they want to risk using their only shiv to grab some extra bullets or to get past a clicker. The choice is yours in terms of approach, but execution must be flawless. Hand-to-hand combat might not be the quickest route, but you'll thank yourself heavily for sparing the ammunition. I'm gonna give you some old school tips on just how to kick ass in The Last of Us. First of all, utilize your hands whenever you can. Melee weapons are good, but they're not infinite. When it comes to some classic fisticuff action, Joel can perform a decent combo on most enemies besides clickers and bloaters. If you're looking to kill a clicker while sparing your bullets, grab a brick. It takes 3 swings to smash their stupid fucking skulls in, and this strat alone is one of many that got me through grounded difficulty all those years ago. Bricks are definitely better than bottles, but both of them are handy when it comes to stun locking enemies. The second you throw one, the enemy will get dizzy, allowing you to sprint up and finish them quick. This is a tricky move to pull off with multiple foes, but it's still possible. You don't always have to remain stealthy, but it's never a bad idea to duck behind cover. If you ever get spotted, breaking sight from your enemies is a valid option if they're human, but if an infected sees you, there's no way to escape. You have to fight. And think twice before you go after a clicker with your bare hands. Punching them is ineffective and will only result in a death.
Watch out!
Some moments in the game have scripted events that require you to push back against the unrelenting forces of the destroyed world. One of my all-time favorite segments, the high school, is riddled with infected, as you, Bill, and Ellie desperately try to navigate the empty building. At certain points, the game introduces different variations of the infected to switch up gameplay tactics constantly. It's so much fun how the player can't rely on one specific play, and encourages neuron activation when roaming the decayed environments and exploring the remnants of the old world. Humans have fallen so far off of the food chain that they've resorted to killing and eating each other, stealing one another's supplies, clothing, weapons, medicine, etc. You not only bear witness to the horrendous aftermath of the infection, you're quite literally smack dead in the middle of it, fighting off people who simply wanted to be normal or live by their own rules, forever twisted by the politics of the regime they're trapped within. It's a great concept, and you just can't argue with it. Fighting hunters feels like fighting a drunken, angry uncle who refuses to leave the family reunion. They're violent, belligerent, aggressive, and relentless. They care about two things: your death and whatever it is you're carrying. All throughout Joel and Ellie's story, they are hunted by this rather large group of people, who are led by some other asshole. It's intimidating to say the least, but with Ellie's sense of humor and Joel's brutality, I can totally see why stories of their journey would scare the other people in the world. Imagine living amongst a group of 10 friends, and 9 of them end up getting killed by a 14-year-old and an old man with a bad temper. Not exactly heartwarming news. This was the first game to truly ground me and force me to play video games better, smarter, and to focus. It doesn't fuck around, and I'm glad they doubled their intensity with this gorgeous remake of the first game. It goes without saying that it's almost perfect in its entirety. When the game first released, I tried my best to explore the environment and discover some of its underrated imagery. You really feel the weight that has impacted everyone's daily life with the infection spreading like wildfire. Pets, houses, luxuries have been long abandoned, and there's seemingly nothing left. Tensions escalate when Joel and Ellie reach Billstown, which is one of my personal favorite chapters. And honestly, there would be times during my youth where I'd replay this segment just to witness the infected and how horrific they are. There's the infamous scene where Joel sets off one of Bill's traps and you have to defend yourself while hanging upside down. It's very reminiscent of Dead Space, and I love that. Games that go the extra mile with their storytelling and action sequences are really damn good.
Come on.
I got you.
Damn it, Bill.
What just happened?
Another one of Bill's stupid traps.
The military truck segment was peak fiction in my opinion. You're not supposed to run right out in front of him, dancing and waving your fucking arms. Instead, you should utilize smoke bombs that Joel can craft, and then sprint the hell out of there. It's iconic, to say the least. Everywhere you go and everywhere you look, you see environmental storytelling giving you the pieces of a puzzle that will never be completed. Some stories from the dead bodies of other people, left to rot in the new world, carrying supplies for the vultures to pick through and move on. One of my favorites is the untold story of Ish and Kyle, who created a society of survivors in the sewers. The sewers, you'd think, would have been the safest possible way to survive a sickness of this magnitude. Unfortunately, it wasn't, but the remains of what used to be a normal living space are still here, haunting the player and characters simultaneously. Clothes, bodies, chalkboards, floor tiles, children's drawings. This was someone's home until it was ripped apart by a force greater than mankind itself. I like how Joel and Sam briefly discuss the past and brainstorm as to how these survivors ever got by. It's no longer a safe haven for the unfortunate souls that were lost down here, and there's an epic fight for your life segment where Ellie and Sam have to open the door from the other side, while Henry and Joel defend themselves from a horde. Thankfully, there's some shotgun shells and other useful items to help you prepare for the onslaught. Jesus, I just realized I've been fucking ranting about the game's story for a while now. This is a cursed Steam review, and we all know the game's story is fantastic. I don't have to explain every single event that takes place. So why are we here? because I've personally devoted a lot of time to this game, and with good reason. I won't waste time commenting on the sequel, that's just asking for someone to come to my house and slap me in the mouth, but I'll say this. I don't personally think the first game ever needed a remake. The remastered edition introduced plentiful content with its groundbreaking new difficulty, Grounded, which unlocks the highest tier clothing for Joel and Ellie, and gave consumers the Left Behind DLC for free alongside it. The remake is a welcoming change, and I love how the eyes of each character are animated to display the proper emotion, but there are unnecessary stutter lags and graphical bugs that tend to slow gameplay down by a fucking nautical mile. I can't help but rub my eyes whenever I enter or exit a cutscene, because textures haven't finished rendering. Some of the hand-to-hand combat and situational awareness of the AI felt very off. Occasionally I was able to strangle a hunter while another one watched with no reaction. Every so often I was granted more than enough time and bullets to use against the enemies. I know I only played on moderate difficulty, but I feel like the original game was nowhere near this lenient. I snuck past so many idiots who should have seen me and interrupted a lot of their attack animations without even attempting to do so. Watch this, I'm gonna blow this clicker's guts out. What? Are you fucking kidding me? How the hell did that clicker not die? I shot him point blank with the fucking shotgun. Direct hit. That's what I mean. Attack animations are very awkward and feel slowed down at times, but in other areas of the game they feel refreshing and fast-paced like normal. Aside from the other minor complaints, I think The Last of Us is still a great game full of emotional set pieces and a vast array of lore in so many areas that it's simply impossible to put to words. I'm really glad I got to grow up with this game over the course of my life. Some may complain about its consistent amount of remakes and versions, but I'd like to think it's worthy enough of that right. The Last of Us Part 1 should be considered an icon in itself, a distinct foretelling of excellent game and character design, with extreme levels of stress, anxiety, loss, tragedy, and so much more. It's a game that can be dissected for ages, discussed by its loyal fans who know the first game is something special. I mean, it must have been, right? Why else would they fucking bother making this? But understand that when it came to the beginning, we didn't need an overcomplicated explanation or a devious twist out of nowhere. The Last of Us was near perfect, and I loved replaying it on my PC. For a cursed Steam review rating, I'd give it a solid 4.2 out of 5. This is a classic survival game, fit with a grounded storyline that isn't afraid to take risks, ask questions, or take people out right in front of you. No matter how you spin it, you can't deny there's hardly ever been a more iconic duo in gaming besides Joel and Ellie. I'm sure this won't be the last time we see either of them, considering the IP is very much alive and well today. Whether or not that's a good thing, I'm really not sure. I guess it depends on who you ask. I know better than to comment on the state today because it only results in two things: upsetting or offending people. I'm not a fan of doing either. To answer the burning question in your mind, no. Probably not going to review Part 2, but I wanted to share the Steam release of Part 1 with all of you in hopes that you'll give it a shot yourselves. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and I'll see you next time.